And we are live.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Marriott Library's Facebook Live event. My name is Allison Maurer. I'm a librarian and head of scholarly communication and copyright at Marriott Library. I'm very excited for today's event, Course Materials Live. I'm joined by 5 excellent panelists. One is still on the way. We're excited for her to join us soon. And I will introduce them here all very shortly. We're going to talk about new software that the library is going to be providing, has provided. It's all set up, ready to go. It helps build reading lists, and it even searches the library catalog within Canvas, which I am so excited about. Marriott Library, we do these events as part of our mission to inspire the creation, discovery, and use of knowledge for Utah and the world. And I can't think of a better way of making knowledge accessible than through course materials and teaching and learning. Information about course materials in Canvas, it's available on a campus guide. And Jordan Hansen, our media specialist who's helping us do the live stream, he's going to post that guide on the Facebook page, so you all will have access to it. It's where today's recorded session will get posted, so watch that page for more details. And the site also links to a quick 10-step guide on how to enable course materials in Canvas, and then how to really set up and build your list. Jordan, as he's posting those, he also watches for questions that come in. So please feel free to comment on any part of today's presentation and ideas that come up and questions that come up. Feel free to comment or even submit your own questions through the library's Facebook page, and Jordan will relay them to all of us as the panelists. So now our panelists, going alphabetically, we have Ian Godfrey, who is the Assistant Dean and Systems Librarian at Marriott Library. We have Stacy McIntosh, the Assistant Professor in Nutrition and Integrative Physiology. We have Jesse Ransom, Teaching and Learning Product Specialist at Ex Libris North America. This is the company that built Leganto, which we're calling Course Materials as the name of the software. And we have Wen-Yang Sun, who is the Assistant Professor in Education, Culture, and Society. So welcome. Thank you all for doing this event. So I have a series of 7 questions, and this is going to run about 45 minutes or so. If we end early, it's totally fine. We've ended early before. This is the great thing about Facebook Live events, is they can stay flexible. So I've got these 7 questions, and the panelists have gotten them in advance. So they have some, prepared remarks so that we can kind of get into these details. But again, if you're viewing, watching live, please feel free to submit your own questions, and we will work them in and address whatever, questions or ideas or concerns come up. Okay, so Jesse, I want to start with you. I thought we could just maybe start with some basic, broad definitions, just to kind of really set the context of what this software is and what it does. So could we even just start with something really basic as, how would you define a reading list?
Great, thank you. So a reading list is the list of all of the resources that the student needs to read or watch or listen to or somehow engage with as part of your course. It really can include anything. So articles, books, book chapters, videos, images, even your PowerPoint slides if you want. That's really the basic idea behind the reading list.
So is it different from a syllabus?
I tend to think of it as an interactive syllabus. So like a syllabus, it is the list of all of the assigned materials, but it also provides students with access to all of the resources. You can also tag things as required or optional. You can add notes to students to let them know why you're doing a certain reading, what they should get out of it, what they should pay attention to, that sort of thing. Also from the student perspective, they can not only access things access everything from the reading list, but they can also take on a more active role. They can search within the reading list, they can filter for specific resources, they can save resources as favorites or save them for later. They can mark the ones that they've finished reading, they can mark the ones that they like, add their own notes. So it's very dynamic, both for you and for your students.
So an interactive syllabus, it would have like due dates and different course policy information too, potentially.
Potentially, if you wanted to include that information in there. Yeah.
So it takes a while to create a syllabus. As I'm sure many teachers know, you kind of build it over time and you are always adding and updating. Is it similar for reading lists? How long would you say it takes to make one, to create one from scratch?
I would say it depends. I know that's sort of a cop-out answer, but I would say that it depends. I think it really depends on how many resources you have as part of your course, how you have them saved today, how much extra information you want to add for your students. You know, like I mentioned, those notes or those tags. Just to give you an idea, when you are building out the list for the first time, you have several different options for adding new resources. You can search the library collection. You can also copy and paste citations into that library search, and then from there, just drag and drop those right into your list. You can upload files to the reading list, and you can even upload files in bulk if you have a folder on your computer, for example, with all of the files for your course. And then we also have a tool called Cite It. And that tool makes it very easy to add resources from the web. So if you have websites already bookmarked, or even if you have links in Canvas, you can click through to those links. You can then just click on this Cite It tool and harvest the information into your reading list. It pulls in all of the details about the resource, the title, the author, you know, lots of information potentially about it, and also the link back to it. So that's very, very easy to do. And you can do that for all different types of resources. So there's a lot of options, but I think what I really want to stress here is that once you have the list created, it is very easy to work with it from there. It's easy to move things around, to add new things, to delete things. You can roll the reading list over from one term to the next, so you never need to redo something that you've already done. Maybe I should also point out that you can also export the list. So you could use this to build out your syllabus. You know, once you have these resources in the order that you want, for example, then you could just export that out in your preferred citation format and just add that to your syllabus.
That's a nice idea. So it sounds like it depends on the number of readings or items that you have within the course. Would you say, is it safe to say like 5 minutes per item? Potentially
probably less. I would say probably less than that. Maybe the first couple would take a little bit longer, but as you get in there and start playing with it, I would expect less than 5 minutes per item.
Okay, great. And I'm sure Stacy and Wenyang can maybe talk about a little bit their experience and about the time that it took. So we can come back to that. All right, so another kind of just basic question. What would you say, Jessie, are some of the impacts that reading lists can have on teaching and learning?
I think that there's several different perspectives to take when I'm answering this question. So I'll try to think about it from a few different angles here. So from the faculty side, you know, reading lists give you a single place that you can work to assemble and organize all of your course materials. And when you're working with this dynamic list of resources, it's very easy to understand not only how many readings you're assigning and the topics that they cover, but also other questions like, do you have a variety of resource types to support diverse learners? How old are the resources that you're using? Maybe all of the readings for a particular topic are several years old now. You can very clearly see that kind of information when you're looking at this in a single place. And also, again, because it's so flexible to work with the tool, you can can easily adjust the resources, just replace some of them, move them around, mark some of them as optional. So, so it's easy to make those changes and improve the learning experience. So that's one side that I think about is sort of the professor side. Also within the department, it's very easy for you to work together to build lists of course materials, even to understand what's being taught in other courses, to see which resources your colleagues are using or which resources students have maybe read in the class they took before yours. You can see that kind of information. You can collaborate and share these lists internally. And that can give you a really good big picture view of the learner experience. And I think the last side here is that the student perspective, when I talk to faculty about the tool, a lot of times the biggest thing that comes up over and over is to do with the student experience. So it does really make it easy for students to find and access all of the resources that they need for your course. I always feel like this should be the easy part, and actually doing the assigned reading or engaging with these resources should be the hard part. But students can get everything from one place. They know where to go. They don't, if they miss something, they don't need to go digging all throughout the course in Canvas to track it down. And also, thinking about this from, again, sort of the department perspective or the university perspective, they have a consistent way to access their course materials across all of their courses. So they don't need to spend a lot of time at the beginning of the term figuring out how to do the work. They can just get in there and start learning.
Yes, I mean, as a librarian, I just have to say there's so much value in having things be organized. I mean, that's the best way to find information. If it's already ordered, so much easier than like sifting and scrolling and figuring it out. So definitely a beautiful aspect of the software. Okay, so let's move into maybe how this will affect changes within the library. So Ian, you oversee the reserve department at Marriott Library, which is basically going to start using Leganto course materials to receive requests. How is this going to change overall the way the library materials can be accessed and used for courses?
Well, I'm fortunate, Allison, to follow Jessie because she did such a good job about explaining why we're using this tool and what it can do. But let me start at how it will change engaging directly with the reserve department. Faculty who take advantage of reserve lists currently fill out a web form. They have to copy and paste all of their items into that web form for submission to the library. Then we take that information, we search for those resources, and we build a list. It takes 24 hours to publish that to USearch. So I want to go back to Jessie's comment about less than 5 minutes. In my experience, building a course list in course materials while I'm in Canvas is almost more efficient on every occasion than filling out our web form and requesting that we go and add an electronic book to your resource list. So if I can move on to the integration with Canvas and why this is so important to have faculty and student experience starting and originating in Canvas. You don't have to know where to go. You don't need to locate our web form. You're already working in Canvas. We know that the faculty are there. We know that the students are there. So we've brought all of those resources, the creation of your list directly into Canvas, the use of your list, the manipulation of your list, all of that now is integrated right there where the faculty and students are currently working.
Nice. Okay, so I mean, and this is happening now, right? I mean, well, I guess leading up for spring semester, correct, Ian? I mean, so the web form that you mentioned, it's still up and people can use it, right, but it's going to get expired.
Right, it's going to get expired for spring. So we've had wonderful test groups that have been helping us pilot this software installation, work out any bugs that we might have seen, understand how students and faculty are going to be using it. So we've had test courses for summer of 2021 and fall of 2021, but we're really looking for that consistent university experience to start for spring of 2022.
All right, so thank you for that transition. That actually helps me go to the next question. So really, I should start with a big thanks to the faculty on this call who were willing to pilot. As Ian mentioned, they piloted the installation with us through summer and then also into fall. So that's Stacy and Wenyang and others too. So we really appreciate your willingness to work with us on this. So let's move into how it went for both of you, Stacy and Wenyang. What maybe some of your takeaways were, recommendations, suggestions. So Stacy, I thought we could start with you. Could you maybe just introduce everyone to what courses you teach or what course you used were the test on, the pilot on, and then how you ended up using course materials, the software in Canvas?
You bet. I teach a nutrition course for nursing students. So it's Nursing 3010, and that's a prerequisite course for the nursing program. And I was contacted by you guys asking if I would be interested in being a pilot. I've always had an ebook version linked to my class directly through Canvas so that students could access the textbook immediately that way. And then I have always had a hard copy of the book on reserve at the library. But of course, there's limited licensures, and I think the ebook version, only about 5 students can access it at one time. So that was a limitation. And then there was only 1 or 2 hard copies. So when this option came up, it sounded too good to be true to have students be able to access the course through a multitude of different ways directly on the class. And there always ends up being that issue in the first week or 2 of the semester where students haven't yet received their book, or they're still waiting for that book to arrive. And this really eliminates those types of issues for the students. So I can show you what it looks like for my class. This is the homepage for my nutrition intervention and the treatment and prevention of chronic disease course. And this was the first time that we set it up for summer semester. I would say it took us, I don't know, maybe 15, 20 minutes to set it all up. I still have the bookshelf here for students. And then we also have the course materials just directly on the course menu for the class. When students go to course materials, it takes them directly to the library's copy of the textbook. And I also have the link built into the modules. So for example, this is the chapter 1 module guide. And directly under the readings, we have the library copy, also their inclusive access copy if they choose to go that route. We were able to embed directly to the chapter, not just the textbook, within the modules. And my understanding is we're going to get to that a little bit later, and that is a little bit easier to do. I don't remember it being hard, but I also think it's a little more integrated now. But that just, when the students click on that, so if they're looking through the chapter 1 module, it takes them directly to the chapter 1 in the book immediately. And everything is laid out here. They can read the book electronically and just scroll through the chapters. If they choose to use inclusive access, then they can also, from that same chapter guide, click on inclusive access, and it will take them directly to the book. This does not take them to the chapter, it just takes them to the whole book. So it's actually really nice that we can embed the specific chapter in the course materials and not just the entire book. So that's how I've used it in my class. So again, I have it set up both on the course menu and then within the chapter modules directly to those chapters.
I think your course is a really great example for a couple of reasons. One, that you use both inclusive access and the library licensed ebook. I think that's kind of a new trend. And we have a really close relationship, great relationship with the bookstore. And they're the ones that oversee inclusive access. We're part of a big team, campus-wide team. We're overseeing like this whole process of course materials, making sure it's easy for professors, easy for students. So this is a really great example of how the two workflows kind of come together in a class, and it gives students that choice, just like you said, Stacy. If the student doesn't want to make a purchase, then the student can opt out of the inclusive access option and then use the library ebook. And then, like you said, though, because there are many publishers that will only offer kind of limited access licenses, it's like only what the library can buy, then we try, that's why we have such a great relationship with the bookstore, because then we work with them to make sure there's that additional option for a student who might not want to wait for this 3 years license to free up. So our ultimate goal is to always be able to find the unlimited access license, so that then that basically that text is embedded within the course and there's not like an extra step that the student has to take. And that's ideal. Not every publisher offers that, but that's really what we go for within the library. And the campus store is, they're totally on board with that whole concept too.
I think in some ways, just to add to that, I think in some ways it's nice to offer different options, but it can also be confusing to students to have two different ways to access the book. Because this publisher only offers 5 licenses at a time, I wanted to obviously incorporate the course materials. I think it's easier to use and it takes the students directly to the chapters that I want them to read, and I can limit those page numbers. But if they are finding that it's a very high demand time when they want to access it and they're running into those limits for accessing it, then that's why I also retain the inclusive access.
Right.
So that they can opt out of that within those first 2 weeks, or if they find that it is a barrier, they can keep it.
Right. Yeah. And that is a good point, that it can sometimes, having multiple options can be confusing too for students, because then they're not sure, well, which one do I actually pick? So yeah, it can kind of cut both ways. And the other point that Stacy touched on was this embed feature. So how we set it up for Stacy's course as this pilot for summer was we just did an external URL embed link really within the module. And over the summer, Ian and I also upgraded this Leganto software to a new version, and it's got even more robust linking, LTI, learning technology, interoperability code that really makes it possible, so that then, I don't know if you noticed when Stacy was showing you the course, like it opened in a new tab, which is great, but this little embed feature makes it so that it opens directly in the module. So it's part of the 10-step guide. You'll kind of see how it's all set up. And that's what course librarians are prepared to really help professors set up within their courses for spring. So we're very excited about that. And Wen Yang, that's actually what you and I had been working on too for your course. And so maybe we could go to your experience for just a minute. Could you maybe just say what course you teach, and then kind of what your experience was, what you thought about using the course material software?
Yeah, thank you for inviting us here. And so the course I'm teaching is actually a new course that has been, I'm developing that course reading list over the summer. So I have been seeking out help from Donna and Allison regarding the course materials, and I got this chance to play with the new system. So basically, I have tried I provided Allison with a list of the materials, and Allison helps me build the reading list. And I found that to be very helpful in many ways. So if I could share what I have here and to show you what it looks like. So this is, if I click on the course materials, it will direct me to a reading list. So this is the one that we build and are using. Luckily, with the help from Allison and Donna, we got like unlimited licensure for the textbook we're using. So from here, for week 1, there is a way to download the whole textbook, which is super helpful for students to just click and have full access to it. But what's even better is that Allison helps me build, based on my reading list, organize all the materials into weeks, so that, for example, if this is week 2, students can just click here, and then the chapters, the specific chapter from the textbook will be show up here. And if they click, they will be able to read the chapter, not the whole book. So I found this to be very helpful. And another thing is that, so not all the readings from my course are from that textbook. There are also, for example, for week 5, which is this week, we have a chapter from the textbook, but we also have a chapter from another book that the library has. So I think after Allison added this, the library was able to help me digitalize the chapter of that textbook, so that students can view all the courses like on the same page. I think this will be very helpful. So we did try to add those to the modules of the Canvas side, but we weren't able to figure out how to add individual chapters within each module. But I heard that function has been live now. So I really look forward to try that out in the next semester. But so far, this reading list has been helpful for me to see, just like what Jessie has mentioned, like to have all the materials very much organized, and also connect me from Canvas to library, and also direct students to use more of the library's resources. And also it's very helpful for me to send requests to the reserve, library reserve, so that they can help me prepare the materials without filling out forms. So I found this experience to be very helpful.
Good. I'm so glad to hear it. I was so excited that we were able to find the unlimited access title license for your main textbook. That was really just like a great find. So the library is very much invested in, making this seamless access available for students. And yeah, your course was also a great example of having lots of readings. And you really helped me discover that amount of time that it takes to really organize a reading list. I agree with Jessie. It's maybe like less than 5 minutes per item, but the more items you have, then obviously the longer it takes to build the reading list. But it was definitely worthwhile, because the way you were showing how, like, week by week, the student can really navigate through your reading list. That just, it's like, who cares how long it takes? It's totally worth it in the end.
Yeah, I totally agree.
And yeah, and Wenyang, I'm really excited for you to see how the module piece will work. Basically, what you just showed about how that chapter was embedded within the reading list itself is essentially how it will look in the module.
Oh,
so
that's great.
Yeah, it's a really nice feature. Yeah. Okay, so you both, Stacy and Wenyang, you really touched on like the major points of how the software works and some of the concepts and ideas behind the reading list, and how you interact with the library through this process. It really was very helpful. So Ian, maybe we could just kind of wrap up or summarize how you see, well, first, just some nuts and bolts. How should faculty enable this feature for their course? Maybe we could start there. And then what's the best way for faculty, professors, instructors to work with a course librarian?
Sure.
Or with the reserve department?
Sure. Well, thank you, Professor McIntosh and Professor Sun. You did a great job of explaining, how you're using this. And I think the great examples of why we decided this software was important for you, because at the library, our goal has always been, we want people to spend more time using the resources that we're providing, as opposed to hunting for them, trying to search what system and how to access it. And so that really is one of the goals. I didn't state it specifically, but I also wanted to note, we've talked a lot about electronic resources. If you need to use physical resources, if you still want print copy put on physical reserve, like Professor McIntosh explained, she has used, you can still do that through Leganto. So whether you're adding an electronic resource, a PDF that you're uploading, you want a physical book, or even if you want us to purchase an electronic book or a print book to support your course, you can do all of that in course materials. So let me show you on a test course how I would enable this as an instructor. So from here, I'm going to test on field testing and exploration. And you'll notice in my left navigation, I do not have that course materials link. So for a faculty member to turn this on, you simply go to Settings, Navigation tab at the top. And those of you familiar with Canvas know that the active navigation are at the top. I'm going to scroll down here to the unactivated navigation items, and I'm going to enable course materials, and then I need to save. And now I will have my course materials in my navigation right here. And this is going to take me to the start of creating my list from scratch. As Jesse explained, if I have taken the time to build a course reading list and I'm teaching that again in a following semester, I don't have to start over. I'm going to be able to roll that list over to the new semester, and I'm going to be able to manipulate it, update it, make changes for the current semester. So in regards to connecting with us, I mentioned that that form will be going away and that we will not be using that as the methodology. In Canvas, we have our help so that you can click and get in touch with the reserve team. If you're actively working with a course librarian already, and you know who your liaison from the library is, reach out to them directly. They've gone through some great training that Allison has provided and are ready to assist you and help you get started. But if you don't know who your course librarian is, if you haven't had an opportunity to make those introductions, you can email the reserve team just like you have, and we will make sure that this link goes out to all faculty. We will help you start that process of building your courses, or we'll connect you with your course librarian and liaison so that they can help you. But we are ready to help you start building for spring. I know that people are starting that process now and thinking ahead that far, and we want you to know that we're here and ready to be in that process with you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ian. So we had a question come in from a viewer. Christina asks, I have a professor in my department that always puts together a reader for his course. Would this be able to replace that? Who wants to take this question?
Is this like a course reading packet that would be produced by print and mail?
I'm not sure what they're referring to as a reader.
I think that's my guess. It's probably like, you know, a compilation of articles or maybe a couple of book chapters. Oh, and Jordan is saying that, yes, she's confirming that it's something from print and mail, the print course packet.
Well, I think there's a copyright question that comes into play, which our moderator, Allison, would be the best to answer that question. But I think effectively, functionally, if the copyright availability is there and we can legally provide access to those specific components, I think in many ways it can replace a reader. And I think, as Allison mentioned, the thing your course librarian and the reserve team are really going to work with you on this upcoming semester is taking those specific readings into and aligning them with your syllabus, your modules, or your assignments, however you're using Canvas. And this new upgrade that we have just done allows us to do that very specifically for you so that it's very tailored and very directed to your incremental goals.
That's right. So just to follow up on the copyright question, this actually came up in Wen Ying's class too, because there were a couple of articles where the library did not have a license to the journal that the articles came from. So I had to point Wen Ying to the purchase option for an individual article for students. And that's exactly the process we would follow with this too. Like the course librarian would help that professor go through the reading list, see what the library has licensed, add that link, bring that into the course. And then where we have not licensed something, then we would look at other access options that the student might have to pay for. So that would be like the process of the back and forth with the course librarian and the professor or somebody from reserve too. So Christina, I hope that answered your question. We did have a couple more that came in too. So let's see, one from Cagney who says, can you create this in a master course? Ian, you might know this. She said she was kind of testing it in a master course but she wasn't sure that it could like get delivered to other individual courses. And Jesse, you might have some familiarity with that too.
I may be misunderstanding kind of the technical side of what's going on here, but as part of the integration with Canvas, there is a link between the Canvas course code and the data that's held inside this tool. So when you're creating a new reading list, it's therefore automatically linked to your course. Depending on the data that the library has like in the system behind the scenes, that may be what's going on, that it's not recognizing this test course as a course that the library is managing. I would probably recommend that you reach out to the library for this, and I'm certainly happy to help troubleshoot if necessary, but I think that's my guess for what may be happening here. There are definitely ways to, build out kind of a master list and then either copy it to other courses or link it to other courses. So if that's actually the question, that's something that you can do as well.
I think that's a great idea. And Cagney, maybe the two of us could kind of follow up on that, and we could help you create that master reading list and then distribute it to various courses where it's relevant. Okay, a couple more questions have come in. Stacy, you might be able to touch on this when it comes from Adam. He wants to know if course materials works with inclusive access, and if that's how students, if that's their main route, inclusive access, is there any reason to go with course materials?
Thanks for the question, Adam. I have both in my class because inclusive access does incur a cost to the student and the course materials does not. And so sometimes students like to have the inclusive access because they can download it, they can annotate it, they can highlight and make their own notes on top of it, whereas they can't do that within the course materials because for my publisher, there's only 5 licenses that can be used at one single time. So some of my students prefer to have their own copy so that they can make their own notes on it. And for that reason, I have inclusive access still enabled. But it's really nice to have the course materials options so that they can access it for free.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. Yep. Okay, and then Christina just wanted to verify if the library has a license, then it's good to go. Yes, that's correct. And then the students don't incur any other costs. Yes, that's correct. So hopefully that clarifies Christina's question. And then one other question from Donna. I think it's for you, Jesse. Do you have any plans for integrating the reading list feature into courses that are not named and fed through our PeopleSoft? I'm not sure I totally understand the question. It appears to be a draft and you cannot publish it. Therefore, students or faculty cannot see it. I tried importing it. It did not work.
I'll say technically speaking, this is something that you can do with the tool. You know, you can build reading lists for courses that maybe aren't in PeopleSoft. That is technically possible. Technically speaking, it's also possible to build a list that's not even linked to a course at all. So from a technical perspective, this can be done. I think there's probably something going on with the integration with Canvas. So we can definitely work with the library and work with you to make sure that this is working correctly.
Great, thank you. Donna, I hope that answered the question. And then one question from Dana, who says, how do students purchase the inclusive access option? Stacy, maybe you can say more, but it just comes through the campus store.
You work with someone from the campus bookstore to embed the inclusive access into your course. And so that's tagged on to their registration and tuition cost for the course. They can opt out. They have, I think it's 2 weeks after the beginning of the semester to opt out of purchasing that ebook through inclusive access.
Okay, great. Well, we got all thank yous from the question askers. So hopefully we got those all clarified. So that takes us to the end of our, established pre-written questions. Anybody want to have any final thoughts or final say on course materials?
– I'll just reiterate, reach out to us. Let us give you a orientation to this. Let us hear your questions about how this might support your course, support your students in your own process, and let's get together and figure something out.
Great final words. All right, well, thank you everyone for participating in today's event. And for the viewers, this recording is going to go on that campus guide that Jordan linked earlier. So watch for it there. You can catch up if you missed any part of it. And thank you all so much and enjoy the rest of your day.